I would say on the sum of the parts, if you look at even the software services piece, we think the valuation of that is about $400 billion. And what's starting to happen is that the street now is starting from a multiple perspective as they prove it on the software services side to expand that multiple going 2019, 2020. In terms of some of the stuff that Jim raised in terms of on the consumer side, I do think the street is starting to look at Apple differently today, given some of the product cycle as well as what they're doing on the ecosystem from a consumer perspective as they get more into content and more into the software services piece.
Psychologically, I mean, once you start buying Clorox at a certain age, you probably buy it for the rest of your life. To say that you got to look at this like a consumer products company, like Jim is saying, suggests that you got to believe that it's going to have that kind of feeling for the buyer of the product forever.
It's a halo effect. I mean, the retention that Apple has is unique really to any other technology consumer products company out there, and very similar to Amazon's done in terms of that competitive moat. And I think what's starting to happen now is that what you're seeing is many of the naysayers about the product cycle, you're looking at ASPs, significant increase going 2019. So all of the bear theses are now getting thrown out the window, and I think that's why this was a huge, not necessarily a prove me quarter, but in terms of the guidance and the outlook into fiscal 19, now it's finally on the path to the elusive $1 trillion market.
When you get into it, is the market undervaluing Apple as a brand, which is really the spirit of your question? I mean, it is a brand that has tremendous brand loyalty.
We've always believed that, and I think what's starting to happen now, many others believe that too, is that now the brand from a software services and the broader ecosystem of Apple, you're starting to see it show up in the numbers. So before the street wasn't going to give credit to that software services piece, now $50 billion in 2020, you're starting to see that multiple expand, and I think that's really what's key here to the valuation, along with the generating more cash in some countries.
Is it a good thing for a company to have a $1 trillion market value? I mean, when I think back to the companies that have led the parade on market value, it often hasn't ended well for them. See GE.
It's sometimes a peak.
It's sometimes a peak. See GE, see Dell, see Exxon, see Microsoft at one time.
See
went into the woods for a long time. I'm not saying that's going to happen.
Horsemen of the internet back in 2000, 98.
Yeah. I'm not saying that's going to happen here, because it's different.
It's a great point, and I think it speaks to some of the bear theses out there. But the one thing is, it's software services that's the key. If it was just a hardware company and ultimately into a trifecta product cycle, then ultimately you'd sell it sort of going into it. It's the software services piece that's different. Some of the parts, Street's starting to realize that. Plus, with the cash return policy and just what's happened on the capital reallocation, that's just a significant tailwind for the coming years.